Hey, happy day. Let's talk about being over a barrel. Now, when I think of barrels, I think of root beer. I think of all the possible uses of barrels. I think of uh, these little root beer barrels that we used to have that we made into lamps because they were just these fun little barrels. I think they were probably about a gallon and a half, and we would make them into lamps. They were really popular when I was younger, before we could drink alcohol. And then I think of wine barrels and beer barrels and things like that, and all the different things that you could do with barrels. Now, that's the entrepreneur in me that thinks of what are the possibility of barrels. But really, the expression over a barrel has kind of got negative connotations. It means helpless, at a disadvantage, under another person's control. And none of us as entrepreneurs want to ever feel, or as business owners, want to feel that we're over a barrel about anything. Now, we might feel helpless when it comes to rules and regulations or laws or guidelines or things that we have to follow in our particular industry or business. I know in corporate America and in some of my businesses, I've felt that there were rules and laws that were really constrictive. And if I felt they were constrictive, I was constricted by them. If I felt that I could find a way to work within the guidelines of those rules and laws, I didn't feel constricted. What was the difference? Me and how I felt about the thing that I thought was impacting me. So, I think GMPs, OSHA, USDA, Department of Agriculture, AIB is a baking regulatory, it's not a regulatory agency, it's a grading agency, like a quality grading agency. It's not even an agency, it's just an institute. And there's all kinds of things like that, things outside of our business, things out in our industry or outside of our industry that impact us, and they can make us feel like we're over a barrel unless we are open-minded enough to find ways to work within those guidelines, within those rules, within those ways of doing things in our industry that work for us, that work for our business. And generally, I find that entrepreneurs and business owners are more open-minded, more flexible. Actually, at least the smaller we are, the more flexible we are. It seems like as we grow and we put systems in place and our businesses get bigger and bigger, we tend to put more rules, more regulations, more processes and procedures in place. And if we forget to be open-minded and flexible with those and have a continuous improvement philosophy, we can get locked into creating some of the rules and the systems and the guidelines that make the people that we serve, our customers and clients, feel like they're over a barrel, and they might choose to not do business with us anymore because we're creating the exact type of an environment that we don't like to exist in. And we want to be careful and guard ourselves against that. So where the heck does this expression even come from, over a barrel? Well, it comes from probably a couple of main reasons or a couple of main activities that were used with barrels in the past that had nothing to do with putting things in barrels, but what we did with barrels on the outside. When somebody was saved from drowning, they were often sorry, one of my coaching students, so that they could get the water out of their lungs. Another use of barrels was when somebody committed a crime and was going to be flogged or whipped, yikes, they were actually often tied around a barrel so that they couldn't get loose, so that they couldn't wiggle away or escape, or so that they would be constrained and they could be flogged more effectively. Very, very interesting. I don't even like to visualize that one. So, have you ever felt over a barrel? Have you ever felt powerless by maybe your shareholders? Have you ever felt powerless by a relationship you were in, like a partnership, or by a vendor? Sometimes in the past, I was dependent in one of my businesses or another on one particular vendor. I had a vendor that actually committed suicide, and I had gotten into the habit of using that vendor for a lot of my key ingredients. And backup vendor available, I didn't necessarily have it set up so it could immediately change. And so when that person died and the business went into chaos, it ended up being a little bit of a challenge. And I felt a little bit over a barrel to go with my second choice when, at least for the short term, I ended up doing that until I could find and do some research and actually bid out and source out other places that I could get those particular raw materials. So just for a short period of time, I did feel a little bit over the barrel. And I didn't like that feeling, so I made sure that I put changes and and actions and systems in place so that if I ever lost a vendor again, I always had a series of backup vendors, so I didn't feel like I was locked into a single choice. Another way we might feel over a barrel, I don't know if you've done this, but in business, it seems like we choose an accounting firm, or we choose a lawyer, or we choose our partners and confidants. And once we choose and start that relationship, we often feel over a barrel and locked in that relationship, even if the relationship isn't necessarily good for us after a period of time. So for example, in one of my businesses, I selected an accounting firm and I worked with my CPA and my accountants, and I loved them. But as the business grew, that firm was no longer the best firm for what we were doing as the business changed and grew. But you feel like you're locked into using that one professional because you've dealt with them for so long. I know my father used the same accountant for his entire life, and that person didn't necessarily grow and develop and stay current on the laws and what was best for his business as his business grew and changed and developed, and as he got involved in different businesses. But he felt like this person had all of his information, and it was just easier to stick with that person. And so he felt often over a barrel because he knew he was paying more money in taxes and in things than he really needed to, because the person that he relied on wasn't current in the laws and current in the changes. I mean, the IRS and taxes is one of the most ever-changing, complicated things on the planet, at least to me. I suppose a tax attorney wouldn't think that, or a CPA wouldn't necessarily think that, but that's how I have seen it. So is there anything you feel over a barrel about? Share in the comments below. Are you being careful not to ever create systems and things that would ever make your clients or customers or the people you want to serve feel over a barrel? Because our job as a business owner is to make products and services that relieve our desired customers, the people that we serve, not feeling over a barrel. We want them to feel delighted and excited to do business with us. So it's just something to caution against. That's it. Go out, make it an awesome day, and I will, of course, be with you tomorrow.